With all of the water on the North Shore, there are plenty of activities to do actually on the water, but not as many in the water. But one man's passion is changing that. He's bringing scuba diving to the North Shore. His name is Rob KOHL. Let's go talk to him. Rob, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good to see you.
You too.
Tell me about the history of SEAL Sports.
Well, SEAL Sports was founded in 2000, October 2000, by Garrett Schwing, former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 4. He got off the teams and went and got a degree at Southeastern, actually, business degree. Thought about opening up a dive shop. So he did in October, and here we are.
Rob bought the store from Garrett in July 2004.
How long have you been diving?
I started diving when I was 11, back in 1982. I got certified in 1984 by my father. He was actually a PADI instructor, and that got me involved in it. Been diving pretty hard ever since.
The history of diving dates back nearly to the beginning of man. Diving was one of the first forms of fishing and has been evolving ever since. Scuba diving as we know it began in 1535 with the invention of the diving bell. This actually allowed a person inside a container to breathe underwater, but obviously it wasn't very efficient. The first diver suit connected to a helmet was invented in 1837 with air supplied from the surface. However, the first self-contained diving suit with an oxygen tank wasn't used until 1942, invented by Jacques Cousteau. It's called the aqua lung.
What do you like most about diving?
You never know what you're going to see. I went up to Montana this past week, and I was telling you, we hiked a mile and a half, and in that mile and a half, you might see squirrel, you might see chipmunk, you might see, but you can go down and scuba dive, and you can travel about 100 yards, and in 100 yards, you'll see more species, more color, more corals in that 100 yards than you would in a mile and a half in the forest.
Have you ever seen something down there that you never thought you'd see, or that made you want to swim away as fast as you possibly could go?
Actually, I can't tell you that I have. Even when we encounter sharks, it's more of a, you know, it puts you in that state of awe that you're just happy to be in the presence and be able to have the opportunity to see one.
State of awe to be near a shark swimming by you. That puts you in a state of awe.
You know, definitely eyes on, and just aware of what that shark's doing at all times. You know, but after it's over with, it's like pretty neat experience. It's a pretty neat experience. They're not down there to hurt us. You know, I feel safer as a diver underwater than I would as a swimmer on the surface of the water when it comes to sharks.
And for good reason. In 2008, there were 59 unprovoked shark attacks in the world, none of which were on scuba divers. They were all on surfers, swimmers, and snorkelers. In fact, as of the end of 2008, there have been only 246 reported unprovoked shark attacks on divers around the world since 1580, roughly 82% of which were not fatal.
So how dangerous is scuba diving then?
You know, proper training is required, but if you adhere to your training, it's really minimal as far as your hazards, as long as you fall back on your training.
Are there a number of places around here to dive?
You know, we have Lake Pontchartrain. We actually do some diving there. They recently put some reef balls down, and I know they just put some more down. But we do Lake Pontchartrain, but most of it is in the Panhandle. We do quarterly trips out of the country. Now,
Pontchartrain, a little bit murkier for what you guys usually prefer?
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, visibility on average is maybe 3 to 5 feet, sometimes less, sometimes more.
While diving in Pontchartrain doesn't actually work great for Rob's purposes, it works amazing for other people who are looking for ancient artifacts like Indian arrowheads and pottery, and some of those pieces that have been found in this lake date back thousands of years.
LACOMBE resident Don Scott's been diving for more than 20 years, 10 of which for artifacts. He has more than 300 pieces, most of which he found along the shore of Pontchartrain and Mandeville. It's mostly arrowheads, shark's teeth, old bottles, and cannonballs.
This is a heck of a collection.
It's getting impressive. I've been doing it a long time.
You have a lot of arrowheads in these little cases. How far back do most of these go?
They vary from a few hundred years old to, I got some that are 14,000 years old.
14,000 years old.
This one here is a Beaver Lake, and it's 10 to 14. These here, San Patrice, and they're 10,000 years old, 8 to 10.
He's not guessing. Don gets all of his information from a book called Overstreet. It gives pictures and details about any arrowhead you can find.
What I think is some of the coolest stuff you have, cannonballs. You have a 5-gallon drum full of cannonballs.
They're scattered all about. I've heard they had skirmishes all over the place. Some I found with metal detectors, some I've just found laying on the bottom after a storm erodes the soil away.
He mostly finds grape shot, which came out of a cannon like a shotgun blast, but he does have a few 8-pounders. He hasn't been able to date them, but assumes they're from the Civil War.
So when you're actually diving looking for this stuff, and you come across something like maybe a cannonball or one of these nice big arrowheads, is it like
yeah,
a good
it's
day?
like a little adrenaline rush when you catch a big fish. So it's the same thing, and I love doing it, and I get excited every time I find something.
Don, thanks a lot. I
You're
appreciate
welcome. Enjoyed your visit.
Coming up on North Shore Gems, scuba diving. We take you through each step of the certification process and then out to sea. Stay with us. Welcome back to North Shore Gems. There are 3 steps you must conquer before you are scuba certified: the classroom, pool, and open water.
An object is neutrally buoyant when it displaces an amount of water less than its own weight. This is a true or false question.
In class, you start learning the basics of diving, terms, hand signals, safety procedures, and much, much more. You read a book, take a few quizzes, and a final test. Once you finish your book learning, you get to play outside.
Oh, I hope it doesn't mess up my hair.
You practice everything you learned in the classroom in the pool.
Let's have some fun, blow some bubbles.
You have to master the basics in the pool, the safest underwater environment. You practice the hand signals, safety procedures such as what to do if you run out of air, how to use your partner's alternative air source, and how to clear a flooded mask. And you don't pass until you know it all. But once you do, you simply just get to enjoy diving or playing underwater football.
Other than the fact that you have to wear all this gear and wear this very cool mask, the biggest thing that you have to get used to when you learn how to scuba is just learning how to breathe through this regulator. But once you get used to that,
there isn't all that much to experience diving in a pool. No interesting new species of fish or vegetation, hopefully. For that, you must go to the open water. To get open water certified with SEAL Sports, you do it in Pensacola, Florida. This day, we're doing our first 2 dives about 2 miles offshore at 2 artificial reefs, the Tables and Pyramids. You'll see why they're called in a short.
Rob, what can we expect when we dive today?
We'll see some fish, snapper, maybe some grouper. Barracudas are possible. They're pretty neat. They like to hang out and take a look at us. They're not dangerous. The crabs like to visit these type of locations quite a bit. Lobster. You never know what you might see. That's always kind of the fun part about it.
How do I not freak out when if I see a shark?
Just know that in their natural state, those sharks aren't here to hurt us. They'll just they don't want to be around us any more than we want to be around them. So if you see one, count yourself as lucky that you've had the opportunity to see one, underwater, because that's kind of how I feel.
Lucky to see a shark when I'm in their environment.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty neat to see.
Obviously, the statistics I spit out earlier about sharks and divers aren't really a comfort to me as much as I try to play it off. But it's also not a deterrent either. Once you're snapped into your equipment, the true experience of scuba diving begins. These first dives are only in about 40 feet of water. It's a short distance between the top and the ocean floor, but it's really a world away. It's a strangely serene feeling being an alien on your own planet. But here, that's what you are. It's dead quiet and peaceful. The only sound you can hear is you exhaling. The water is a pristine 90 degrees, even 40 feet under. You can see why this is called the reef table, because they're concrete tables. There's a beautiful array of colored coral growing on the tables, blues and greens and reds. filefish swimming around, eating off the coral, not caring about you at all. Dozens of moon jellyfish floating around above your head. These are the least worrisome of the jellyfish. Their short tentacles will sting. Trust me, they got me on the neck, but it's only a slight pain and quickly goes away. You can see just how fierce they are as Rob plays with one of them and actually puts it on his hand. Schools of tomtate fish or grunts swim around exploring you. Many will even allow you to nearly pet them. If you sit still long enough, some will actually swim up to you within inches of your mask and swallow the bubbles you exhale. It's truly incredible. And one of the best features of diving, the bathroom is everywhere. Just ask Rob. After a short rest up top, dive 2 is at the pyramids. I was pretty acclimated just being underwater at this point, but you never get used to seeing the sea life, especially new species. There are more fish at the concrete pyramids. Still, filefish eat from the coral. There's greater amberjack and triggerfish, and of course, the moon jellies. They're not scary, but I don't like them. They're everywhere. These dives aren't just for exploration, though. You actually have to do some work practicing the techniques and safety procedures you learned in the class and the pool, like buoyancy and navigation. On day 2, we traveled out to Ponce de Leon, Florida to dive Vortex Springs. It's an incredibly popular freshwater site that stays 68 degrees year-round.
This is a famous dive site. People travel from all over the world to dive Vortex Springs. It's a unique cave system. Basically in the bottom of this.
What can we expect to see down there?
Here they have freshwater eels, which are pretty neat. They're accustomed to being fed by divers. A lot of divers visit here. We're going to see some big koi, and a number of other freshwater fish, including turtles from time to time. And I think they have snakes that come through here occasionally.
So instead of sharks and jellyfish, today it's snakes.
Possibly. It's possibly. Definitely freshwater eels.
What do you think is the coolest part about diving here?
Definitely the cave system. The cave system is pretty neat to see, and we'll go down and we'll get to explore the entrance of it, and you'll get to see yourself. But you know, the underwater cave systems here in the Panhandle of Florida are pretty extensive, and that's really the unique thing about this. Plus, Ponce de Leon, Fountain of Youth.
You have to wear a thick wetsuit because the water's so cold, and the entrance here isn't as flashy as falling off a boat. You just walk in and sink. After more training, such as retrieving your regulator after it falls out of your mouth, more buoyancy control, and using your partner's alternative air should you run out, the underwater exploration continues. Rock bass fish swim all around, so close you can nearly fish with your hands, and sometimes you get lucky enough to touch one. If you do it, you dance too, but maybe not like that. Maybe more like this. As Rob said, diving the cave system is a remarkable experience. You get to drop to about 60 feet, the sunlight nearly vanishes, you swim around with a flashlight, or for us, the bright light of a camera. But that's as far as us newbies get to go. There's an underwater stop sign, slightly different than those we see every day. This one warns you that you could die, just as more than 300 divers have. To dive further into the caves, you must be cave diving certified. And as the sign says, without it, again, you could die. Rob promised us an eel, so we went on a hunt, swimming up and around and through the rocks, but it never happened. The only non-human life we saw were the rock bass fish. After trying to throw rocks at Rob for lying, we moved on. No eels, but what I did get to experience, though, were underwater air pockets. Inside the cave, there are areas against the roof where the water doesn't fill, some enough to stick your head out of. You can breathe underwater without your regulator. Pretty cool. Once you finish exploring and working out all your training, you are officially scuba diving certified. But this is just the beginning of all your diving possibilities. Beginners only get certified for 60-foot dives. More training allows you to go deeper, meaning more experiences, like sunken ships. Here's an example. After swimming down more than 60 feet to the Peak Tide 2, about 12 miles off the coast of Pensacola, you're surrounded by thousands of baitfish swimming around the ship. You can see fish species that only live in deeper water, like white-spotted soapfish and spot-fin butterfly fish. You can explore the inside of the ship where humans used to live and work. So many baitfish you can lose track of your diving buddy. Where else can you see this sight?
Now, once you're certified, it's good for life. If the beginning stage is not good enough for you, there are dozens of other qualifications that you can earn. From the indoor mountain peaks of Slidell to scuba diving certification in Mandeville, you can do it all right here on the North Shore. I'm BROMAN-FULKS. Thanks for watching North Shore Gems.